Is he changing a story or just making it better? I'm Greg Agnew with his coverage of the OJ Simpson civil trial, and of course that means more of our exclusive reenactments from the courtroom where cameras are forbidden. Well, first up though, before we get to the reenactments, here is the latest news from Wednesday's trial.
And Chronicle doing it to a gentleman named Keith.
The red carpet is out
The eventually asked Judge Ito to declare Cato a hostile witness. During 5 days of testimony, Kalin said that Simpson's behavior seemed ordinary the night of the murders. Though they had never gone to dinner before, Cato joined OJ on a quick trip to a fast food restaurant that night. Cato testified that he left Simpson after they got back to Rockingham, and he, Cato, returned to his rent-free room alone. After about an hour, while talking on the phone, Cato heard loud thumps on the wall. Kalin said he saw Simpson again about 15 minutes later as OJ prepared to take a limo to LAX, Los Angeles Airport, for his flight to Chicago. During his criminal trial testimony, Cato did not mention certain details about a conversation he had with OJ the day before the murders. As they watched a movie, OJ talked about a scene that reminded him of Nicole having oral sex with Keith Zlomzowicz, her boyfriend at the time. In this verbatim reenactment now, Cato seems a little reluctant to complete that part of his testimony.
Let's turn to the weekend of June 11th and June 12th. On June 11th, did you have occasion to spend any time with Mr. Simpson? Yes, I did. When was that? It was in the afternoon on June 11th. What were the two of you doing? Watching TV. And did anything come up in the conversation that you recall now? Yes. There was a movie on, The World According to Garp, and there was a part that was coming up in the film that he wanted me to see. And there was a... Do you want me to go on? Please.
I'd like a question, Your Honor, instead of a narrative response.
Ask a question. Please relate the conversation between Mr. Simpson and you regarding the Garp movie. He wanted me to see this part that was coming up in the film where...
Move to strike as non-responsive.
Overruled. You may answer. And there was a part in the film where the wife was going to give oral sex in a car. And he wanted me to see that part. And he compared it to him seeing oral sex, Nicole giving oral sex at the Gretna Greenhouse. What did Mr. Simpson say, as best you can recall, when he pointed out the oral sex scene to you on television? That he was outside the Gretna Green and saw Nicole doing it to a gentleman named Keith. And did he tell you when he had seen it? I don't remember the date. Did Mr. Simpson say anything to you that day about Nicole Brown Simpson other than what you just said? And there was talk of having a white picket fence, having the kids around. They liked the sound of having children around. Did he say anything else that you recall? He was getting ready for a dinner, a black-tie dinner, and he was feeling like he didn't really want to go.
Plaintiff attorney Daniel Petruccelli used some of Cato's testimony to set the scene for a double murder, at least the plaintiff's version of the two murders. In this reenactment, Cato relates what OJ had to say when he returned from his daughter's dance recital on the evening of the killings, June 12, 1994.
When you went inside and spoke to him, was this before or after he'd come back from the recital? This was after the recital. What, if anything, did Mr. Simpson say to you about the recital that he had just attended? OJ had said that he was wondering what it would be like for these women to be wearing outfits when they're grandmas, he had said. Did he indicate which women he was referring to? Nicole. What did he say about that? What is she going to do when she's a grandma? Referring to her outfit. Describe the outfit. A miniskirt. What else did Mr. Simpson say to you about the recital, if anything? He said that Nicole was playing hardball with him because he wanted to see his daughter, Sydney, and she wasn't... I'm sorry? Allowing him to. Mr. Simpson indicated to you what in regard to Sydney and Nicole? He regarded that he wanted to see his daughter, and Nicole was playing hardball because she wouldn't let him see her after the recital. Did he say anything else to you about the recital that you can remember? No. By the way, what was Mr. Simpson wearing at the time of that conversation, about 6:30 or 7 o'clock? I thought it was a sharp-looking sweatsuit. Dark, white zipper. What do you mean by sweatsuit? Like a jogging outfit.
Cato testifying there for the 5th time. He was at the grand jury, he was at the preliminary, he did the criminal trial, the depositions, now the civil trial, and there's new information where he talks about the tracksuit, the dark tracksuit, also the Garp movie and the conversation, at least regarding the Garp movie, and hardball over Sydney, access to Sydney. So, Kathy, when new information like that comes out of a witness after testifying 4 previous times, how reliable is it, and does memory actually get better over time?
Well, first, no, memory does not get better over time. Memory remarkably gets worse over time. Our memory system was never designed to be a permanent storage system, and we lose information over time. However, there can be facts that were not recalled.
Did you feel anything against your back?
Yes.
For you can send us a fax question anytime in front of the grand jury, at the prelim, during the criminal trial, and in his depositions. Parts of his story have changed, and the most important change Tuesday may have been the time that Cato said he heard those thumps on his wall. This as he talked on the phone to his friend, Rachel Ferrara.
And you spoke to Rachel on the telephone?
I did.
What else did you do?
Well, the time I was talking to her I was had the phone in the bed. I said, Rachel, I'm plugging this typewriter and it's not working here. I was explaining to her that the outlets weren't working. And I stayed on the phone with her for a while.
And during the time that you were in the room, you were in your room, right?
Correct.
Did you ever leave the property during the time that you're describing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You left the property when something happened later on, right?
Correct.
Before we get to that, during the time that you were in your room talking to Rachel about a typewriter, did you leave the room at all?
No.
Did you see Mr. Simpson at all?
No.
Did you hear him?
No.
Okay. Were you looking at a clock and watch at all?
No.
Then what happened?
Then I heard these three noises that were thumps, three loud thumps, and my picture moved in the...
Can we have a photo of his room with the picture? This is 143 on the television monitor. Give me 194, Steve. When the noises occurred, did you look at a watch or a clock?
No.
You said a picture moved. Can you point to Exhibit 194 and tell us what picture you're referring to?
This picture. It just moved after I heard the thump. The picture moved that way.
It tilted a little bit?
It tilted.
How do you know that it moved?
I saw it.
Now, where were you at the precise time that you heard these noises?
Leaning up against this bed, like that, talking on the phone.
Talking on the phone? So your back was against the headboard?
Yes.
You said you heard these noises. What do they sound like?
Like someone falling back behind my bedroom wall.
What makes you say that?
Because that's what it sounded like to me after.
You previously testified about the rhythm and the volume of these noises. Do you remember that?
Yes.
By hitting the witness stand, can you demonstrate that to the jury, the rhythm and the volume of the noises? Did you feel anything against your back?
Yes.
What did you feel?
Vibration.
Okay. What did you then do?
Well, I talked to Rachel on the phone. I said, Rachel, did we just have an earthquake?
Why did you say that?
I kind of wanted to believe that it was an earthquake because my picture moved. She said no.
Why did you want to believe it was an earthquake?
Because I didn't want to believe there was someone back there.
And what did Rachel then say?
She said no.
What did you then do?
I explained to her what had happened. The picture moved, and I said I should probably check on this.
What did you do?
I got off the phone with her, and then I have a flashlight, pen light in the drawer, and I went and checked on this.
During cross-examination, defense attorney Robert Baker accused Cato of trying to cash in on his friendship with OJ by conveniently forgetting their conversation about oral sex until 6 months after the killings. What follows is taken word for word once again from Tuesday's court transcript.
Did you ever, let me ask you in terms of your ingress and egress, and let's go to June 11th, 1994 now. By June 11th, 1994, you say you were watching television with OJ Simpson, correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned something about the world of GARP.
Correct.
Now, you first mentioned that in an interview that you did with Mark Elliott on December 27th, 1994, some 6 or so months after the killing, true?
I guess.
You had never mentioned that in any conversation you had with Mr. Shapiro, with any of the DAs at the grand jury, or at the preliminary hearing. Isn't that true?
I guess so. I was never asked anything.
Well, when you were having this interview with Mark Elliott, this is when you were contemplating putting on a book and making a few bucks relative to your involvement in the O.J. Simpson matter. Isn't that true?
To possibly get a book. Right.
And in fact, you'd even signed a contract before you came up with this world of GARP story that had never surfaced in any of the prior interviews. Isn't that correct, sir?
No, I didn't sign any contract.
You had negotiated a contract but didn't sign it?
With Mark Elliott.
And this was really you in an attempt of that particular testimony about the world of GARP, attempting to cash in on your 15 minutes of fame, so to speak, wasn't it, sir?
No.
Let me ask you. You had heard about this incident with this gentleman named Keith before you ever moved into O.J. Simpson's house, had you not?
I don't believe so. It was part of the 911 call, and I didn't make sense of it at the time.
You had never heard about that from either the October 25th incident or anything else? That went on at 325 South Gretna Green, correct?
What I can remember? No.
And you heard O.J. Simpson, and you were standing next to him with this police there when you were talking about that incident on October 25th, 1993. Isn't that true, sir?
Question is vague as to what incident.
The incident of oral sex in the living room of 325 South Gretna Green with Ms. Simpson and this gentleman named Keith, correct?
The police did come by, and when they came to my room, I sort of excused myself. And I don't remember that happening. I mean, it was dialogue with police, but
You tuned it out?
I don't remember completely the incident, but I know they came to my room, and they asked who I was, and he said, he's okay, and let them talk. And I went out towards the pool area.
Now, on June 11th, you related some conversations you had with Mr. Simpson, correct?
Correct.
And you talked about this incident in the movie, The World According to Garp, correct?
Yes.
And you have a clear recollection of that, right?
Of him telling me that story? Yes.
And that was kind of sensational. If you were going to do a book, to put that in the book, something about oral sex, you thought that when you gave the interview to Mark Elliott, didn't you?
No, sir.
One thing, a note to add to the conversation there regarding Mark Elliott, the author of the Cato Kalin book. Cato now says he is going to sue Mark Elliott because he never gave him permission to put out that book. Of course, the book came out without Cato anyway. That was last year. In the conversation there, we heard Cato say that when it came to Keith Zlomzowicz, he didn't mention it before because it didn't make sense at the time. And Kathy Pezek, this is what we were talking about before, how when you're told more on the desk.
Can you demonstrate for us how loud it was?
Somewhat, yes.
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Now, of course, the defense is claiming that perhaps the testimony is a little bit different this year. The thumps are a little different. Kathy, how definite is memory when it comes to sound, especially when something simple like 3 thumps?
Not very good. Make it a quick answer. Memory for sound is not very good. What we
One thing
can
about
do-
this alleged hardball with Sidney until you spent 8.5 hours with Mr. Petruccelli.
All taken verbatim from the testimony.
Now, you had, by the time that you had your deposition taken in 1996, you had testified at the preliminary hearing. You'd given an interview to the DA. You testified at the grand jury. You'd been on Larry King Live. You'd been on innumerable television shows, correct?
Correct.
And not one time did you ever mention one word about the IRS until you'd spent 8.5 hours with Mr. Petruccelli. Isn't that true, sir?
I don't know if I said it before that or not.
And isn't it true that you never mentioned one thing about this alleged hardball with Sidney until you spent 8.5 hours with Mr. Petruccelli?
I don't believe so. I think I said that before.
And isn't it also true that you never mentioned one thing about the thumping at 10:50? You spent at least 8.5 hours with Mr. Petruccelli.
No, I said that in my first interview.
You said that in your first interview when you thought you got back from McDonald's at 10 o'clock, not 9:37. Isn't that true?
I think in all my interviews, I've always had an approximate of time.
Isn't it true when you said the only time you ever said 10:50, other than in this courtroom, is when you were being interviewed by Mr. Shapiro, and you said 10:50, and you believed that you got back from McDonald's at 10 o'clock. True?
I don't think so. I think, Ms. Baker, what it was, I had no time on me. I didn't have a watch. I wasn't keeping time. So it was always approximate when I said that.
We'll get back to that.
Okay?
Cato under attack there. Charles, do you think the jury bought the idea that the plaintiff attorney, Daniel Petruccelli, had changed Cato's testimony?
Well, I don't know, Greg. I mean, one of the...
Said, Cato, you saw me go into the house for McDonald's.
And what did you say?
I said, no, I didn't.
Hi, I'm Steve Quebec. We are here live every night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and that's when we take your calls live. Yesterday in the poll question, the results were extremely, well, even, I guess, because what the results were 50-50. Today, the results are far more split. The question was, do you believe Cato Kalin knows more than he is telling? 75% of you still say yes. Not in the courtroom because he was in Orange County at the other trial, at the custody trial, and there was a much more relaxed feeling when Cato was on the stand. The question is, do you think Cato was intimidated by OJ during the criminal trial? And here are the numbers to call to vote. If you think yes, The number is 900-370-6530. No is 900-370-6531. As always, it's 99 cents per call, and you must be at least 18. Well, back to our reenactments, and this one has plaintiff attorney Daniel Petrocelli questioning Cato about events at Rockingham after police let OJ return home. That was on June 13th, 1994, the day after the killings.
Okay. And when you entered the house, what did you see?
It was full of media everywhere. And then I went into the house, and there was groups of people sitting in the living room area in front of the TV.
Inside the house?
Inside the house.
There weren't media in the house?
No.
You meant outside?
There was media outside, parked outside.
Now, in the house, what did you see?
Inside the house, everybody was watching TV and chatting to the events of the day, saying, making comments to the reporters.
You mean on television?
Television.
They were shouting at the television. Was Mr. Simpson there?
Yes.
And what was he doing?
He was sitting in a chair watching it also.
Did you notice anything about him?
Yes.
What did you notice?
I noticed on his finger he had a tissue paper. There was blood dripping. Blood was seeping through.
Now, did there come a time that evening that you had a conversation with Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
How long after you got there did you have that conversation?
The time frame, I don't know exactly how long. I'm guessing 10 or so minutes.
Where did that conversation occur?
In the kitchen.
Who was present in the kitchen during that conversation?
I believe it was just us,
Who was us?
OJ and Cato.
Tell me what was said.
He had said, "You saw me go into the house after McDonald's." And I said, "No, I didn't." He had said, "I saw him walk into the house from McDonald's."
OJ.
OJ said that to me. He said, "Cato, you saw me go into the house from McDonald's."
And what did you say?
I said, "No, I didn't."
Why did you say that?
Because I didn't.
It's all about the alibi, extremely important. Well, during his cross-examination, defense attorney Robert Baker tried to show why Cato could not give OJ an alibi. The house guest and his host never had much contact with each other.
And Mr. Simpson didn't ask your permission to go out and hit golf balls on his front lawn, did he?
No.
And you normally, when you were there, stayed back in your room, did you not, sir?
True.
And he didn't check with you if he was going to have people in or if he wasn't going to have people in, correct?
Correct.
In other words, you had a separate life from Mr. Simpson when he was actually in residence at 360 North Rockingham. You would agree with that?
Yes.
And Mr. Simpson, when you moved in, was basically not in that house, almost virtually never, until in May of 1996. Isn't that true?
Pretty much so, yeah.
So, I mean, when Mr. Petrocelli asked you the second time he ever came to your house, he was in New York the first couple of months, and then he was in Puerto Rico shooting a film all the month of April. Isn't that true?
Object, Your Honor, because it misstates the record. No evidence of that.
Overruled.
Isn't it true he was in Puerto Rico virtually the whole month of April shooting a film?
He was filming. I don't know. I don't remember the exact date.
You were aware he wasn't around that house when you first moved in. He was back in New York, working for NBC for the pro football season, correct?
Correct.
So you didn't have many chances for any social intercourse with O.J. Simpson until May of 1996. Isn't that true?
94.
I'm sorry, 94.
For some of it, yes.
This is one of the most interesting things about this trial, I think, is, and we can actually run the footage we have of O.J.'s estate, the testimony that we're expected to hear tomorrow when O.J. takes the stand, that he was playing golf balls or hitting golf balls on his lawn at 10 o'clock or later at night on June 12th, 1994. Charles, is this one of the things you think that we'll hear first from O.J., one of the first questions he'll be asked?
Well, I don't know, Greg, what the plaintiffs are planning to do, and it's going to be very interesting to find out. There are a number of ways they can go, but I wouldn't expect that one to be first, because...
Here's a black sweatsuit, and the defense tries to point out inconsistencies in Cato's testimony as he recalls a conversation with O.J.
Isn't that true, sir? You never mentioned purported pausing when you knew Mr. Simpson was a suspect in any of these occasions. Did you, sir?
I don't know if I did or not. It's what happened, though.
When Cato invited himself to join Simpson for dinner the night of the killings. Cato said he felt like he wasn't really invited and shouldn't have asked himself to go. Robert Baker attacked that testimony in his cross-examination, and we pick up the questioning after Cato has described loaning OJ $20 so he can tip the skycaps at LAX at the airport later that night.
And now, after he had asked you for that, he told you he was going to go get something to eat, correct?
Yes.
And you testified this morning that he paused when you asked whether or not you could go with him to get something to eat.
Yeah, it was when I asked. It was a hesitation. It made me feel as if I was inviting myself. I shouldn't be coming along.
Now, you never mentioned anything. Well, strike that. When you were interviewed by the L.A. Police Department, that was because, and you were aware of, that they felt Mr. Simpson was a suspect in the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, correct?
Say the question again?
When you were interviewed on June 13th, 1994 at 1:30 in the afternoon by officers Tippin and Carr, you knew at that point in time that they felt O.J. Simpson was a suspect in the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, true?
They didn't say anything to me about that, but I assumed that's what they were doing at the house.
And you certainly knew by the time that you testified before the grand jury that O.J. Simpson had been arrested and was a suspect for the double murders, correct?
Correct.
And you certainly knew that when you testified before the preliminary hearing, correct?
Correct.
Now, in terms of either of... Strike that. In any three of those interviews, you never mentioned one time about any alleged pausing of Mr. Simpson in your inability or ability to think that maybe you were intruding on him, did you?
Objection. There's no foundation that he was asked any of these kind of questions, Your Honor. I object. If he's got a specific question and answer, he should present it.
Overruled. Isn't that true, sir? You never mentioned purported pausing when you knew Mr. Simpson was a suspect in any of these occasions, did you, sir?
I don't know if I did or not. It's what happened, though.
So you have... Was your recollection refreshed after you had the interview with Mark Elliott to try to sell your book?
No foundation. Recollection needed refreshing, Your Honor. I object.
Sustained. The book, this is actually news that we broke last year. The book is, we have a copy of it. It's called Cato Kalin, The Whole Truth, The Real Story of O.J. Simpson, Nicole, and Cato from the actual tapes. These were interview tapes that Cato did last year. He denied it at the time, but he actually did. And taking your questions live via the phone, via the fax, and via the internet. Plus, the defense attacks Cato's testimony about those 3 thumps he heard on his bedroom wall.
You didn't use your general thump, thump, thump in your deposition. You made a movement along the wall in the room when we were taking your deposition, after you spent hours with Mr. Petrocelli.
Pound.
She's beautiful.
So, dabble, have a look. Cato Kalin has testified many times about June 1994, and parts of his story have changed in the past 2.5 years. In our next reenactment, Robert Baker tries to hold Cato to his original description of O.J.'s demeanor on the night of those brutal killings.
Now, Mr. Kalin, even after the pause that you say you observed when you asked Mr. Simpson to go get a hamburger, there was nothing in his demeanor or his behavior that was unusual at all, except that he was tired, correct?
Correct.
In other words, during the drive to get food, he was not upset, was he?
No.
Now, he was not depressed.
Well, he was tired. Depressed is kind of a fine line. I thought just not talkative. So I could say, yeah, it was maybe depressed and tired. Just quiet.
Now, let me read what you told the grand jury on page 64, lines 7 through 15.
Okay. 1 second, Mr. Baker. Thank you.
Question. During the drive to get food, can you describe how Mr. Simpson was behaving? Answer. Quiet. I asked him about a question about what airline he was going to fly out and what time the flight was, but he was, you know, he seemed very tired. Question. Did he seem upset? Answer. No. Question. Or depressed? Answer. No. Tired. And likewise, Mr. Kalin, on the way back, you didn't notice anything unusual. other than he was tired. Correct?
Correct.
During his direct examination, Cato said he could see the upstairs of OJ's house from his guest room, and he testified that he did not see any lights or the usual reflection from the television set. Robert Baker challenges those answers in this reenactment from Tuesday's cross-examination.
And by the way, you can't see the upstairs of Mr. Simpson's house from the bed in your room, can you?
If my slits are open. I can't remember if you can see him or not from the bed. The slits in the door. I don't know if you can see the reflection coming out. I had the office door open because the typewriter was there. So there's this big window there, and I...
Sir, just answer my question. And my question to you is...
Excuse me. He was answering it, Your Honor.
I don't think it was responsive.
My question to you was, and when you're lying back on the bed, you cannot see whether or not a light is on in the upstairs of Mr. Simpson's house from your room or the room you were using in June of 1994. Isn't that true, sir?
It could be the way you're laying, yes.
And it is also true that you can't see whether or not a television is on from the position of lying in that bed, looking in through the office or looking out the window from the room that you were using, correct?
From the office, you could see through the window. If you went outside, you could, yes. But not laying in the bed, probably not.
So you didn't have the ability from 9:40, 9:37 when you got back to the time that you went out in front of that house to the driveway to see whether or not the lights were on, whether or not the television was on, with the exception of when you left your room and went on the decking area and walked around, correct?
Object. It's vague. What does he mean, the ability?
Overruled.
Partially, yes.
Now, in terms of your then situation, you have testified on many occasions about these thumps that you say you heard, right?
Yes.
And you have each time, with the exception of your deposition in February of 1996, indicated that the thumps were rhythmic and hit the witness stand where you were testifying, right?
Correct.
And after you spent 8.5 hours or so with Mr. Petrocelli, when you were taking your deposition in February of 1996, you felt compelled to roll along the wall, didn't you?
Objection. It's argumentative.
Sustained.
It's also vague and ambiguous.
Ask to form.
You didn't use your general thump, thump, thump in your deposition. You made a movement along the wall in the room when we were taking your deposition, after you spent hours with Mr. Petrocelli.
Compound.
Compound. Sustained.
Interesting time in court Tuesday. Charles, in some ways this almost seems like part of the problem that Cato had last year, in that he seems to agree with whomever is questioning him. And a couple of examples here. For the plaintiffs, he said he could see the TV. For the defense, he said, well, maybe he couldn't see the TV. For the plaintiffs, he said, well, OJ was depressed. And for the defense, well, maybe not depressed. Maybe he was just tired.
Well, you know, Greg, I think that's a problem for many human beings, not just Cato Kalin, and that's particularly true when they're being asked to describe things which have many words that can describe them. And when you're asked to describe someone's mood, it's not as if you can say 6.2. And so if somebody says, you know, was he like, you say he was tired, then somebody else comes along and says, tired, well, did he also seem depressed? And you say, yeah. So it's not a lie, necessarily.
Bill, what do you...
Well, I think you also have to think of Baker's personality. I mean, Baker, as a questioner, has a very polite but powerful manner.
The attack dog.
He's been described as an attack dog, and when I read that, and then when I saw him in action, I thought, this is a most polite and extremely dangerous attack dog, and I don't... And so he's dominating. I mean, he's in his physical appearance, in his manner, the way he carries himself, and his voice, his deep voice. I mean, you compare him to Johnny Cochran, who was also very convincing and powerful, but in a different way. But Baker, in his style and his manner of questioning, and of course his command of the whole thing, is intimidating. And so here's a person like Cato, who's a weak person, you know.
Do you think that's winning for the jury? Do you think that he is able to win over the jury by being more aggressive with the witness?
I think it's very effective because he's aggressive, but it's not it's not an aggressiveness that puts people off.
Charles, briefly. Well, the timeline and about takeouts.
You didn't talk about 10:50 at any time after you had given a statement to Mr. Shapiro when you thought you got back from McDonald's at 10 o'clock until you spent hours with Mr. Petrocelli. Isn't that true?
Any time, 24 hours a day. Well, the most important shift in Cato Kalin's testimony may be the time that he now says he heard those 3 thumps behind his bedroom wall. At the criminal trial last year, he said it was between 10:40 and 10:45 p.m. At the civil trial, he testified the bumps might have happened 5 minutes later, and that launched this line of questioning by Simpson lawyer Baker.
Now, by the time you testified on March 22nd, 1995, there was at least, what, 50 people that asked you what time it was when you heard the thump?
I have no idea.
Well, you were certainly been asked by Marcia Clark, hadn't you?
That's one person.
You certainly had been asked by Mr. Cochran, hadn't you?
Probably, yes.
You certainly had been asked by Mark Elliott, hadn't you, in your interview with him?
Possibly.
You certainly were asked at the grand jury and the preliminary hearing, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You were asked by news reporters, weren't you?
I don't think so.
You had, before you testified at the criminal trial, spent hours with the district attorney relative to your testimony, had you not, sir?
Yes, I did.
How many hours did you actually spend with the DAs before you got on the witness stand in March of 95?
I don't know how many hours. It was a few. Quite a few.
Was it over 15?
I think so.
And you knew in those interviews they had asked you on numerous occasions how you judged the time at 10:40. Isn't that correct, sir?
I think I've always said approximately.
Okay. And how you judged the time at approximately 10:40. You were asked that on numerous occasions before you testified at the trial, were you not, sir?
I believe so.
And you testified at page 19873, that page, lines 7 through 16. Question. At that point, sir, that you heard the thumps on the wall, sir, about how long had you been on the phone with Rachel Ferraro? Answer, about half an hour. Question. So approximately what time was it when you heard the thumps on the wall? Answer, it was about 10:40. Question. Is that exactly 10:40? Answer, well, I don't remember. I didn't look at a clock, but around 10:40. That's what you said. Is it not, sir?
Yes, it is.
And you didn't say 10:50, did you?
No, I said around.
And you then testified that, and you'd previously testified 10:40 to 10:45, correct?
If
At the criminal trial?
it's on there, I probably said that. Around that time, yes.
And you didn't testify to in the neighborhood of 10:50, did you, sir?
Well, it's not like, well, it's like the explanation again. I didn't have a clock or a watch.
You didn't talk about 10:50 at any time after you had given a statement to Mr. Shapiro when you thought you got back from McDonald's at 10 o'clock until you spent hours with Mr. Petrocelli. Isn't that true?
Excuse me, Your Honor, this is an absolute misstatement of the Shapiro interview. Got home at 9:40 to 9:45. It's right here, line 17, page 20. He keeps saying 10 o'clock. I object.
Sustained.
The only time you ever mentioned 10:50 wasn't until you spent 8+ hours with Mr. Petrocelli. Isn't that correct?
Objection, lacks foundation, misstates the testimony.
Overrules. You may answer.
You can answer.
Say it again.
This is the last time. Never mind. I withdraw it. Never mind.
Robert Baker there questioning Cato Kalin. You may have noticed he brought up the name Mark Elliott once again. Mark Elliott, of course, is the author of the Cato book. We have a picture here of Mark Elliott and Cato together. And Bill, I want to ask you, these are the days of tabloid journalism. In this trial, we've heard mention of Hard Copy, Heraldo, the National Enquirer several times. Does it even matter when they bring up a name? Even though Mike Elliott isn't tabloid, it's still to do with Cato putting out a book, potentially, to make money out of the trial.
Well, I don't think it, I really don't think it matters anymore. I mean,
Did you hear the chipping of golf balls? No. Did you hear any golf balls scalding play equipment or hitting anything?
Hello, I'm Greg Agnew once again with more coverage of the O.J. Simpson civil trial, and that means more of these exclusive reenactments from the courtroom where Judge Fujisaki has banned all cameras. Well, O.J. Simpson will take the stand tomorrow, Friday, despite last-minute pleas by his attorneys to postpone his testimony.
In asking for the delay, defense attorney Robert Baker said O.J. Simpson should take the stand today. Baker said that since the plaintiffs wouldn't give Simpson a break, he didn't want to give them more time to prepare. Court resumed with Baker's son, Philip, questioning FBI shoe expert William Boziak. Boziak acknowledged that he could not identify at the crime scene came from the same Bruno Mali shoes that Simpson is shown
All of the
wearing.
roles you're about to see are played by professional actors who do not ad-lib a single word. The court reporter does not release the transcripts until many hours after court ends, so usually we're on a one-day delay. However, there was so much important testimony by Cato Kalin on Tuesday that we're showing you more of that today, and we'll catch up with yesterday's testimony and today's testimony on Friday's show. So, last year, former Simpson house guest Brian Cato Kalin took the witness stand for 5 days. He was called by the prosecution at the criminal trial. At that time, Kalin testified that Simpson's behavior seemed normal the night of the murders. Though they had never gone out to dinner before, Cato asked to join Simpson on a burger run that night. Cato testified that he returned to his room alone after they got back to Rockingham. About an hour later, while talking to a friend on the phone, Cato heard 3 loud thumps on his wall. Kalin said he saw Simpson about 15 minutes afterwards, and that was as Kalin was exploring the source of those thumps behind the house. O.J., by the way, was preparing at that time to take a limo to the airport for a flight to Chicago. That was last year. No one saw O.J. Simpson between 9:40 p.m. and 10:55 p.m. on the night of the killings. O.J. has no one who can give him an alibi, and despite his claims, that includes Cato Kalin. This reenactment now is from plaintiff lawyer Daniel Petruccelli's direct examination.
From the time that you last saw Mr. Simpson at the Bentley, after McDonald's, until the time that you next saw him in this area backing up the car. Are you with me?
Yes.
During that period of time, do you have any contact with him at all?
No.
Did you talk to him?
No.
Did you hear his voice?
No.
Did you hear any activity coming from the house?
No.
Did you hear the chipping of golf balls?
No.
Did you hear any golf balls scalding play equipment or hitting anything?
No.
Did you hear doors open and close?
Your Honor, there's no foundation.
overruled.
No.
Did you hear any sound at all indicating his presence on the property?
No foundation. He heard any sound from wherever he was.
Overruled.
No.
You were in your room this entire time that we've been talking about, right?
Yes.
Did you hear or see any activity in the backyard?
No.
And you could see up into Mr. Simpson's room when the light was on?
Yes.
Did you see or hear anything up there?
No.
Any TV flashing?
No.
Mr. Simpson had been to your room how many times that evening?
Asked and answered, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Twice.
Had he... did he come to your room again?
No.
Now, when you had the conversation with Mr. Simpson about, you know, the sounds that you heard, did Mr. Simpson tell you to call the police?
No.
Did he tell you to call West Tech?
No.
Did he tell you to talk to Arnell when she came home, Arnell, his daughter, to make sure that she was safe?
No.
Did he say anything to you about what you should do in regard to those noises?
No.
When you came back from McDonald's with Mr. Simpson, do you recall what he was wearing?
I believe it was the same outfit. The dark sweatsuit.
After Mr. Simpson and the limousine driver left the property, what did you do?
I went right to my room.
Important testimony there. What was O.J. Simpson wearing? A dark sweatsuit, a dark tracksuit. And, Bill, this is something we didn't hear last year, but this time we hear that O.J. was wearing it, according to Cato, at the Rockingham estate.
Well, Cato's memory has not only returned